I was just super surprised. The reason why this system works so well, whenever you save money, you're spending in a different way. Automats to be connected to Ethernet, you do need partners. You have to be obsessed. The light reaches the wall. In this episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, we're talking about tracking, we're talking about EZhub, we're talking about anti-latency, we're talking about everything around. And when I say this, you put all of the, like, maybe like a trailer, like a very dramatic trailer, like a reality TV show trailer. This episode, we're chatting everything camera and lens tracking for virtual production. This is an exciting topic, probably for a lot of people, but also a very new topic for myself because I knew nothing about all of this before getting into building this virtual production studio. The only thing that I knew was Vive Mars, and I knew that, you know, a lot of people track using the Vive system, and then there's this new system for virtual production called Vive Mars, as in like adapted and so on. This very kind of like prosumer type of setup. So I had to learn really fast of what other options are out there. I'm really happy to report that I think I've done the right choice with the setup. Tracking is seamlessly for us. Like everything works buttery smooth in terms of tracking. And also it's always on. As in, we don't have to recalibrate. Usually with VR type of setups, you have to recalibrate, put the center. It's a bit annoying. We work with anti-latency system. So anti-latency, what they do, I think I've looked at their background a bit, and it seems like they used to do initially VR experiences type of setups and eventually got into virtual production products. What is anti-latency? Well, it consists of two main components. You have the infrared trackers, that are proper infrared trackers, and a 200-degree camera detects those trackers, be it on the ceiling, on the ground, on the wall, wherever you might want it to be. And this system, I think there's other more high-end systems that use a very similar setup. It's a lot more robust and reliable system because the camera that detects the infrared points, wherever you might have them on the ceiling or not, basically reads always the same location of data, so it can calculate where in that position it is. And I think a system like this is a lot more suitable for a fixed studio where you don't need to move things around. I think a Vive Mars is kind of like a travel-friendly setup. So yeah, anti-latency with its camera POC and the infrared trackers, super robust and reliable. But that's not the only reason why I really like this system. Well, there's two. Is not expensive. I think I paid a very similar price like you'd pay for the Vive Mars system. And Vive Mars is considered the budget-friendly setup. Probably the most valuable and important, they are really on it when it comes to the support and helping you, hand-holding you through the setup. I was just super surprised. I've been working and buying stuff from big brands for quite a while, and it's very cold. Right, you go to support ticketing systems, waiting for 48 hours to get a reply. They have to check with that person to that person, and I mean, you probably experience some of these brands, and you know, asking for support. Anti-latency guys, and you can see that they're small and passionate about this. I had questions. Do you wanna hop on a call? Yeah. There's been on calls over the weekend, which I don't endorse, or just like 30 minutes after I've emailed them, I was already on a call with someone from their support team. Thank you so much for the support.
Thanks, Will.
Cheers.
So,
Bye bye.
goodbye.
Really good, these guys. You see, that's another thing with working with more younger, innovative companies and so on. They'll pick up the phone and jump on a call. They send me the email. I send them a text saying, "Hey, here's a Zoom link. Do you wanna quickly jump on a call?" And jump on a call, and they're making the environments for us and helping us with the setup. If you have like a company that a big company that where you pay like 50K for the tracking system, they would charge you another 10K to for them to come in and help you install it or help you set it up and things like that. I think that's a criteria that I would recommend when you're getting into this industry and buying stuff. Figure out who you're dealing with, who you're buying products from, because especially if you're new to the whole virtual production world and having scratching your head on how to set up a more obscure product, and by obscure I mean, it's not your Sony cameras and your Red cameras, which you get tutorials and a billion pieces of content out there for it. But a lot of this is a common theme when you get into an industry like this. A lot of the professional equipment is not as prevalent when it comes to information that you can find out there. So you have to dig through documentation, you have to dig through obscure forums to find out information and so on. That can be disheartening, but if you buy equipment from businesses, companies, teams that are super passionate and they're on it when it comes to helping you set up and answering your question, you're in a better place. You feel more empowered and you feel like you can actually do it. You can actually have your dream virtual production studio. Why was I on a couple of calls with support? I know some people might be like, well, oh, if you're on support calls, then it means that it's a bad product or you weren't able to set it up, so it's complicated. Not at all. The reason why we had a couple of support calls with anti-latency team was because the reason why this system works so well is because in their software they have programmed the patterns of the infrared trackers. They basically have these ceiling installable tiles which have a specific pattern for the infrared trackers, similar on the kind of like floor tracking system. So everything is like a very standard pattern that afterwards in the software that pattern is registered, and the camera that sits on top of your actual camera, the 200 degrees puck camera, detects the pattern on the ceiling, and based on that and based on the information that it has about how the infrared layout looks like, it can calculate where in space it is so that it translates that into the virtual environment. We have a very challenging ceiling, mainly because we wanted to have a grid because that's more flexible for attaching lights and so on. We have on the close to the ceiling we have acoustic panels. All of these things we'll talk about in future episodes, like the soundproofing and also the lighting videos. They're standard installations. They have like 3 or 4 types of installations: the ceiling layout, panels, you have trusses, installation for trusses, which are quite common, and the floor panels as well. But again, we had a very odd setup. Now, what we've done was, before ordering, I sent them pictures of the ceiling. I've asked them if there would be any chance for us to be able to attach the truss infrared trackers on this grid. And they told me from the start, well, your grid is not the standardized sizes of light trusses. But here's what we're going to do: buy them, install them, and then you'll measure the distance between a couple of the end infrared trackers and send it to us, and we will code a custom layout that you can load into basically their software. And that's exactly what happened. And I was on the phone calls giving them the measurements, testing. They would send me a test template. We would put the puck, check it out. I would send the results of the test to them. They would adjust it and so on. So really, really, really helpful bunch. And I'm so grateful for the fact that they didn't just hang up on me and said, nope, it only works with these type of setups. So you have to buy the ceiling panel and make it work with the ceiling panels. No, they actually went and coded a profile for me, which was amazing. But there's another component that you need to consider and also bring in the virtual environment in order to have a seamless integration between the worlds, and that is your lenses. And the anti-latency system, at least when we bought them, didn't have encoders. What are encoders? Encoders are lens data readouts. So you have these devices that look like lens motors, but they're not motors. They're basically set up just to track the rotation of your focus or your zoom or your iris, for example. And you install them on your lens, and then you have to have a system where that information of the rotation of that motor, of that encoder, is translated into, hey, this is the focus range that I'm turning, adjust things into the virtual world. Or, hey, I just zoomed in this much. So virtual world, zoom in as well. Because otherwise, if you don't have those things, if you don't have the lens information, you have to set up your lenses and keep them static. As in, you can't really focus and zoom and do other things because you don't have the capability of reading that into the virtual environment, which, if you think about it, in return makes your entire motion tracking system useless. Because at the end of the day, when you're moving a camera in, you have to focus on the subject. And if your subject focuses, but the background stays exactly the same in terms of, kind of like focal range and also clarity, blurriness, whatever you want to call it, bokeh, then it just breaks the effect. So I don't think motion tracked cameras work well without tracked lenses. So I had to figure out a solution, and I decided to go for EZtrack with their EZ system for multiple reasons. They partner up with Antillatency. So the EZtrack team has built a profile in their software in order to make it easy for people like me that use anti-latency camera tracking to be able to bring that information into their hub. And I mentioned hub. What do I mean by hub? Because we were talking about encoders a second ago. Well, I could have bought just encoders and translate that information straight into Unreal Engine, but I wanted more of a integrated system, let's put it like that, and that's why I got for the EZ system. EZ is basically a computer where you send information like your spatial tracking of your camera, your lens fizz rotation information, and also your lens distortion information, and I'll mention that in a second. And then all of that information is packed within this computer, which is like this tiny box, EZ. Using their software, all of that information is processed, and then through a plugin integration with Unreal Engine, you get all of that data into your environment, whatever environment you might have set up. So it's more seamless rather than saying, oh, well, I'm using this tracker here, I'm using this other type of tracker there, and then I'm using this lens encoder on this camera and on that camera. If you do that, you might save you money because you buy this cheaper thing here and then you find this other bit. Yeah, you can patch things together, but whenever you save money, you're spending in a different way. And in this scenario, you're spending your time, because every single time you have to reset up stuff, re-enable plugins, make sure that all of the systems are working, and so on. And also, it might put a stress on your computer. That's what EZHub is. It allows you to pack all of the information from the real world and send it into the virtual world. That's the kind of like dumbed down explanation. They have a bunch of software apart from this hub. So they have the EZHub software that I mentioned, which has a integration with Antillatency. They also have something called EZProfile. And this is really cool, and I really love this piece of software, because what you do is go to this tedious process. It is tedious, but it's much needed. You go to this process of registering the profile of your lens, distortion information, the zoom travel range, the focus fallout, and all of that information. I'm not super technical when it comes to characteristics of a lens in a sense, but you get a lot of, when you calibrate your lens by taking pictures, a lot of pictures of some QR codes that they send you with this EZProfile setup. Basically, what they're able to do through the software is profile for your lens that has all of this data, all of this information. And then in Unreal Engine, in LiveLink, with their plugin, you're able to feed this information to the Cine camera, to the digital camera, and basically match the characteristics of your lens with the virtual lens. And why is that important? Well, one, it means that you give your virtual background the same character as your lens has, and the same behavior when it comes to zooming in, the level of zooming, and the level of focus, and how that falls off, and so on. Not super technical with this type of stuff and this engineering of lenses and lens data and such. I know as much as I need to know in order to make things work, but I do find when I have the composited footage of a lens that was profiled using EZProfile and I apply that, it looks a lot more believable than a lens. Let's say I'm using a lens that's not profiled and I'm just getting whatever the standard Unreal Engine Cine camera output is. So that's really, really useful. And then they also have this thing called EZLineup, and actually you can see that weird QR cube that looks like it's not real. And that is to help with the offset of your tracking device on your camera to the sensor of your camera, as well as helping you make sure that your composition in the virtual environment with the real environment is correct, and you have the right perspective and dimensions of the physical world with the virtual world. So yeah, I'm really happy with all of this suite of EZtrack products combined with anti-latency. At the end of the day, it wasn't cheap. Yeah, the anti-latency is cheaper, but the EZtrack, you add all of these licenses and all of these other products, and it adds up. Way cheaper than some of the industry standards out there. Very similar feedback to what I had with anti-latency. The guys at EZtrack, again, very similar. They were on the phone call. I had to figure out a couple of things on how to make anti-latency fit well, and the tracking and a bunch of other things there. And literally they were on a call with me, helping me connect EZtrack software with the Unreal Engine plugin. And not only that, but while on the phone call, the support person kept on giving me advice and kind of like tips and suggestions on stuff, which is super amazing to be able to do, to have someone that is there as passionate as I was mentioning earlier, and just riff with you and say, oh yeah, and you can do this, and by the way, let me teach you something, save this preset as a profile there, and then when you restart this environment, it's gonna run automatically. And so it's like small things like that just helps improve your life on set, but also when a brand, a company like this helps you at this level, it's just very refreshing. And yeah, it's one of those companies that I'm always going to treasure for helping me get into motion tracking in virtual production. Antillatency and EZtrack made my life way easier, and made things a bit, a lot less spooky when it comes to this topic. Being able to track lens data, being able to quickly solve offset of your camera are significant life improvements on set in virtual production, as well as just switching the power on and getting all of these trackers to track and position the camera exactly where it's supposed to be without having to recalibrate, figure out the center of the studio and map that in the environment and so on. Why is that important? It's for my own benefit in a sense, yeah, because I'm less stressed on set, but that kind of translates into benefits for our customers as well, because it means you're able to save cost. How? Well, from very basic things, like, for example, we have all of our lenses profiled, right, with Easy Profile and Easy Hub. So it means that I don't need to reprofile those lenses. So that means that I don't need to spend extra time, which means less money spent by our customers. Because rather than charging them a specific day fee because I need to calibrate their lenses again and readjust things, no, I can charge them less because my calibrated lenses, it's always the same, right? So I don't need to constantly do that extra manual labor. And I can also offer bits where, hey, if you use our lenses because they're already calibrated, you pay less to hire us versus if you'd bring a set of 10 lenses and you want all of them profiled. Then the other bit, so that's pretty obvious, right? The other thing that people don't really think about, you are able to get a lot more content shot in one day because you don't have a lot of admin to do every single time you reposition for a new shot. And I think that is a common theme in our studio and our technology and how we set up here, from being able to record on multiple devices, from having super wide range lenses, meaning not having to remove them from the camera and rejig stuff, from having a crane that I can position in every single angle very close to the subject really fast and not have to de-rig, take my sticks, put them there, take the camera, re-rig it, and so on. And then including the tracking, profiling, and so on. All of these things help us shoot more for a customer in a day, which again results in then having to pay less, because rather than booking me for 2-3 days, you're booking me for a day, because everything is so snappy and so well oiled in terms of our equipment in the studio. Right, so that's about it for this episode, and that's pretty much about it for now about the tech in the studio and how we set it up. I know this is short. You might have questions. You might want deep dives into certain tools and certain setups. Feel free to comment or reach out to us if you want to dive into anything specific that we maybe just slightly touched on. Would be happy to either directly help you or even make a video on that specific topic. Make sure that you subscribe. Again, I've been saying this all throughout this series, but there's a lot more really cool episodes coming. Soundproofing this place, I think we've gotten some really good solutions for that, as well as the lighting struggles and victories that we got along the way. So subscribe, and I'll see you in episode number 7. Yeah, episode 7.